Americas and Beyond. By Alan T. Cunningham, narrated by Eric Elam. Chapter 1, The Tremor. Atlanta, 1996. The Olympic Stadium glowed under the glare of television lights. Billions of eyes across the globe were fixed on the final moments of the torch relay. When the camera cut to the last figure in the chain, the audience gasped. Muhammad Ali, the most famous fighter the world had ever known, standing alone, torch in hand. He lifted it slowly, painfully, his arms quivering from the tremors of Parkinson's disease. The fire flickered against the night sky, a symbol at once triumphant and tragic. The greatest boxer of the 20th century, reduced to a frail, trembling man. Ali had once floated like a butterfly, stung like a bee. Now his body betrayed him. Years of punishment, 15-round wars with Joe Frazier, the rope-a-dope against George Foreman, bruising late-career fights he should never have taken, had left their mark. Medical textbooks would later confirm what fight fans had long whispered: Ali was living evidence of a condition once called punch-drunk syndrome. Punch-drunk. The phrase was first coined in 1928 by Dr. Harrison Martland, a New Jersey pathologist, who studied former boxers staggering around gyms and taverns, unable to speak clearly, often prone to sudden rages. He called it dementia pugilistica, a disease of fighters, slurred speech, tremors, poor coordination, cognitive decline, personality changes. The name was crude but accurate. Boxers looked drunk long after they had stopped drinking. The cause was not alcohol, but trauma, thousands upon thousands of punches rattling the brain inside the skull. For decades, boxing dismissed it as folklore. Trainers spoke of getting your bell rung or taking too many shots, but the culture rarely acknowledged long-term damage. Fighters were expected to endure. To quit was shameful, to show weakness, unthinkable. Ali, of course, was different. He was the fastest, most graceful heavyweight of all time. Surely someone like him, fans thought, would not pay the price. But no footwork, no jab, no charisma could protect him from biology. His brain, like every fighter's, was flesh. Flesh does not forget. The price of greatness. By the mid-1980s, even before retirement, Ali showed signs of decline. He slurred words in interviews. He shuffled where he once had danced. Doctors warned him to stop fighting, but boxing punishes exit. The lure of one more payday, one more moment under the lights, drew him back. When Ali fought Larry Holmes in 1980, it was a massacre. Holmes, his former sparring partner, begged the referee to stop it. "I was hitting him with punches, real punches," Holmes said, "and I knew he didn't have it anymore." Round after round, Ali absorbed blows that accelerated the neurological decline which would later become visible to the world. By the time he lit the Olympic torch, Ali's greatness had become a paradox, revered as a global icon because of what he once was, pitted because of what boxing had taken from him. Not just Ali. Ali was not unique. He was the most visible. Behind him stood a line of fighters whose names are less known, but whose suffering was just as real. Mike Tyson, whose unmatched ferocity left a trail of physical and psychological scars. Evander Holyfield, a warrior whose body betrayed the longevity he fought so hard to maintain. Julio Cesar Chavez, whose punishing work rate over decades left him fragile beyond the ring. Manny Pacquiao, a modern warrior carrying national expectations on shoulders worn by repeated trauma. These are not isolated tragedies. They are part of boxing's DNA, a universal truth that crosses nations and eras. The brain's hidden damage. Medical science has caught up with what Martland first noticed nearly a century ago. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, is a degenerative brain disease caused by repeated head trauma. Under a microscope, the brains of fighters show abnormal tau protein buildup, a creeping pathology that kills neurons, erodes memory, mood, and motor function. Unlike a broken bone, the damage is invisible in the moment. A fighter may look fine after a fight, give a coherent interview, walk to the locker room. But the brain, shaken inside the skull by every punch, is accumulating microscopic scars. Unlike a sprain or cut, the brain does not heal. Every blow adds up. Hundreds of rounds in sparring sessions, dozens of professional fights, thousands of punches, the math is merciless. The silence of the sport. Boxing has always existed in tension. Fans celebrate artistry, courage, spectacle. Fighters are immortalized for toughness, their ability to absorb punishment and keep coming forward. But that same quality destroys them. Within the sport, this has long been unspoken. You don't talk about the damage. Trainers tell fighters to shake it off. Promoters avoid the subject. Fans cheer knockouts without considering the cost. Ali lighting the torch broke that silence in a way no doctor or journalist could. His body was undeniable proof. The tremor was visible, broadcast worldwide. It was the price of greatness, paid in public. Setting the stage. This book begins with Ali because he represents both the dream and the nightmare of boxing. He was adored, immortalized, revered. He was also ruined. His life embodies the contradiction at the heart of the sport. The very qualities that make fighters legends are the same ones that destroy them. In the chapters that follow, we will trace this contradiction through the lives of American and international fighters, Tyson, Holyfield, Chavez, Pacquiao, Golovkin, and beyond, through the eyes of doctors, families, and the fighters themselves. We will examine the science that explains what Martland glimpsed in 1928. We will explore the culture of silence that keeps fighters from seeking help. We will confront the collapse of purpose when the roar fades, leaving a fighter alone with the damage carried from the ring. The story begins with a tremor, but it stretches across decades, continents, and men whose names fill arenas worldwide. This is their story, and it is the story of a sport that exalts and destroys. Chapter 2: The Champions of the Americas and Beyond. A Nation of Fighters. Boxing is a global sport, but in the Americas, it has always held a special place in the hearts of the people. From the smoke-filled gyms of Brooklyn and Philadelphia to the sun-baked arenas of Mexico City and Manila, boxing has been a path to glory, a way to rise above poverty, violence, and expectation. In the late 20th century, a new generation of fighters emerged who would carry their nation's hopes and fears into the ring. Men whose power, skill, and personality transformed them into household names, not only for their victories, but for the human drama they embodied. Behind the lights and the roars, however, lay the same dangers that haunted Ali, the unseen cost of each blow absorbed. Mike Tyson, the unstoppable force. In 1986, at 20 years old, Mike Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in history. His fists were feared worldwide, his power was immediate, devastating, almost mythical. Tyson's rise was meteoric. From Brooklyn's gritty streets to Madison Square Garden, he inspired awe and terror in equal measure. But the very style that made him legendary also left its mark. Chronic injuries, cognitive strain, and the cumulative toll of thousands of punches shadowed the man adored by millions. His triumphs were celebrated, his private struggles were endured silently. As Chavez once said, "You fight not just with your hands, but with everything in you. And everything in you remembers every fight." Manny Pacquiao, the modern warrior. From the Philippines came Manny Pacquiao, a fighter whose speed, heart, and relentless work ethic made him a global superstar. Pacquiao carried not only his own dreams into the ring but the expectations of a nation, where victories meant collective pride and losses were personal heartbreaks. Even as a defensive marvel, the volume and intensity of his fights left him with cumulative trauma. Pacquiao's career, though triumphant, exemplifies the modern paradox of boxing. The more refined and strategic a fighter, the less likely he is to suffer catastrophic injury in a single fight, yet decades of repeated blows still leave an invisible ledger, silently tallying damage. Gennady Golovkin, the international force. Kazakhstan produced Gennady Golovkin, known worldwide as GGG, a boxer whose precision and punching power terrorized the middleweight division. Golovkin represents the rise of post-Soviet boxing excellence, combining disciplined technique with ferocious intensity. Even for modern fighters, science cannot entirely mitigate risk. Golovkin's style, like Chavez's or Tyson's, exacts a cost, in microtraumas, in subtle cognitive decline, in the quiet aftermath of glory. A pattern emerges. From Tyson to Pacquiao, Holyfield to Chavez, Golovkin to Mayweather, the story is consistent: glory fades, but the damage remains. Some suffer physically, others mentally. Many struggle to adjust to life outside the ropes. The arena's empty, the crowds vanish, and the fighter is left with his body, his mind, and the echoes of punches taken years before. Ali's tremor in Atlanta was not an American tragedy alone. It was universal. Across continents, the story of champions proves no fighter escapes unscathed. Chapter 3: The Voices. When the crowd goes silent. For a fighter, the ring is a world of extremes. The lights are blinding. The crowd is deafening. Every punch, every cheer, every gasp becomes a part of the body's rhythm. But the moment the bell rings for the last time, that world disappears. And what remains is silence, the quiet, unrelenting emptiness of a brain that has been shaken more than it should have been. Fighters describe it differently, but the patterns are the same: tremors, memory gaps, sleepless nights, mood swings, and the slow erosion of identity. Across nations and generations, the voices tell a story of triumph shadowed by cost. Mike Tyson, the haunting of power. Mike Tyson, once the most feared man in boxing, speaks with a mixture of awe and regret about the aftermath of his career. "You grow up learning that power is everything," he says. "You step in the ring, and everyone cheers, everyone fears you. But after it's over, it's just you. The punches you took come back, not in the body, but in the head. They echo. They whisper. And no one can corner you for that. You fight your demons alone." Tyson's words resonate with countless fighters who lived their prime in public and their suffering in private. The same fists that carved legends also carved a toll unseen by fans. Evander Holyfield, discipline and fragility. Evander Holyfield, known as the real deal, reflects on the tension between discipline and vulnerability. "You're trained to take punishment, to keep going, to never quit," Holyfield says. But the body remembers. The mind remembers. Even the most calculated fighter cannot outrun the toll. After the roar fades, you see the cracks, in your body, your head, your relationships. That's when you understand the fight doesn't end with the final bell. Golovkin reminds us that even modern, scientifically trained fighters are not immune. Technique and defense mitigate damage, but they do not erase it. The shared truth. Despite differences in style, personality, and nationality, one truth unites these voices: boxing leaves its mark. Not just in bruises or broken bones, but in tremors, memory lapses, anxiety, depression, and quiet moments of isolation. The science now calls it CTE, but fighters know it as something more intimate. The invisible tally of punches that never stops counting. Ali's tremor in Atlanta was a warning seen by the world. For these men, the warning is felt privately, in the moments after the crowd fades, when the echoes of punches return to claim their toll. The price of pride. The pride of a fighter, courage, determination, refusal to quit, is both the fuel of their glory and the architect of their suffering. "You take the hits," Tyson said. "You get up, again and again. And when you finally can't get up anymore, you realize the fight never really ends. It just changes form. And that's the hardest punch of all." Across the Americas and beyond, the pattern is clear: boxing may create heroes, but it also leaves ghosts. The voices of Tyson, Holyfield, Chavez, Pacquiao, and Golovkin reveal the hidden cost of every victory, every defeat, every fight. Chapter 4: The Science of the Knockout. Inside the fighter's brain. The brain is extraordinary, soft, gelatinous, resilient. Yet it is also fragile. Every punch a fighter absorbs rattles it inside the skull, twisting and stretching microscopic fibers. Most of the time, the damage is invisible. A fighter may smile, joke, and walk to the locker room as if nothing happened. But beneath the surface, the injury accumulates. Modern science calls this chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. It is the long-term result of repeated head trauma, the invisible toll of a lifetime of punches. Tau and the ticking clock. Under a microscope, the brains of affected fighters reveal deposits of tau protein, a sticky substance that interferes with normal brain function. Over time, tau builds up, killing neurons and disrupting communication between cells. The result is a creeping pathology: memory loss, tremors, impaired judgment, mood swings, and in some cases, aggression or depression. It's not a sudden collapse, says Dr. Annette Carlson, a neurologist specializing in sports-related brain injury. It's gradual. A fighter may be sharp and alert at 30, 40, 50. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, the symptoms manifest. The clock has been ticking for decades, and the brain finally signals that it has had enough. Lessons of history. Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Julio Cesar Chavez, Manny Pacquiao, Gennady Golovkin, their stories are case studies in cumulative trauma. Decades of punches, thousands of rounds, repeated concussions, each one adds to the invisible ledger inside their heads. Science now confirms what trainers and fighters long suspected: the sport that exalts toughness endangers longevity. Modern medical tools can detect early signs of damage. Imaging technology can reveal microbleeds and structural changes. Cognitive testing can identify subtle declines before they become catastrophic. But the culture of boxing has historically slowed progress. A culture resistant to change. Boxing has always celebrated resilience. Fighters are praised for taking punishment, standing tall, refusing to quit. To walk away, to acknowledge damage, is often viewed as weakness. This mentality delayed safety measures, treatment, and protection. Tyson, for all his fame, faced the hidden consequences in private. Chavez, for all his endurance, battled unseen damage. Even modern warriors like Pacquiao and Golovkin must navigate risk alongside strategy. Yet change is emerging. Some gyms now limit sparring rounds, enforce rest periods after knockouts, and employ strict concussion protocols. Athletic commissions implement rigorous medical screenings. Fighters themselves are increasingly aware of the importance of preservation, not just for career longevity, but for life after the ring. Preventing the next generation. Modern science is clear: fewer repeated blows mean lower risk. Protective gear, better medical oversight, and early education reduce long-term harm. Youth boxing programs now emphasize technique, defense, and fitness over sheer contact. Rising stars like Ryan Garcia, Shakur Stevenson, and Zach Evans represent this new generation. They combine technical precision, strategic sparring, and smart fight planning to minimize unnecessary punishment. They thrill audiences without sacrificing their brains. The paradox remains. Boxing is still a sport of extremes. Every punch thrown is a negotiation with risk. The paradox endures: courage, aggression, and resilience create legends and threaten their future. Science can inform, protect, and mitigate, but it cannot erase inherent danger. As fighters step into the ring today, Ali's tremor, Tyson's demons, Chavez's scars, Pacquiao's sacrifices, Golovkin's vigilance serve as warnings. Glory has a price. Medicine may delay it, but it cannot eliminate it entirely. Moving forward. For fans, trainers, and fighters alike, the challenge is clear: celebrate skill and courage but respect the science. Boxing can survive, even thrive, if culture evolves alongside knowledge. Every punch leaves a mark, sometimes visible, often hidden, always lasting. The lessons of the past guide the future. The next generation of fighters can step into the ring, achieve greatness, and leave with their minds intact. Ali's tremor remains a cautionary image, but also an inspiration. Boxing can evolve. Legends can be made without being broken. Chapter 5: Life After the Bell. When the spotlight fades. For every fighter, the moment they hang up their gloves is both an ending and a beginning. The roar of the crowd is gone. The bright lights of the arena are replaced by quiet streets, ordinary mornings, and the lingering ache of a body that has absorbed decades of punishment. Leaving boxing often triggers an identity crisis. Fighters are conditioned to define themselves by courage, resilience, and the ability to absorb punishment. Without the ring, that identity can crumble. The man who once commanded tens of thousands of fans now confronts a quieter battlefield, himself. Mike Tyson, from power to reflection. Tyson's transition out of the ring was tumultuous. Fame, fortune, and ferocity did not shield him from personal and mental challenges. Substance abuse, legal battles, and depression haunted the man once feared by the world. "I had to learn who I was without the gloves," Tyson says. "In the ring, I knew my place. Outside it, I was lost. The hits that mattered most weren't in the ring. They were in my head." Tyson eventually found peace through meditation, faith, and storytelling. He became a mentor, actor, and public speaker, channeling his energy into helping others confront adversity and trauma. Evander Holyfield, rebuilding identity. For Holyfield, retirement meant discovering a life beyond discipline and resilience. He faced financial struggles, injuries, and a lingering sense of purposelessness. Yet, through mentoring, public speaking, and family, he rebuilt his identity. "You learn to fight differently," Holyfield reflects. "It's not about an opponent in front of you, but the opponent inside you, fear, doubt, regret. You can't ignore it. You fight, you survive, you rebuild." His story emphasizes that the skills learned in the ring, focus, discipline, endurance, can translate into life beyond boxing, if only support is available. Julio Cesar Chavez, endurance beyond the ropes. Chavez, Mexico's hero, found that even the strongest fighter must face vulnerability after the final bell. Chronic injuries, mental strain, and the weight of national expectation challenged him in new ways. "Life after the ring is different," Chavez says. "You have to protect what's left. You have to heal. You have to give yourself the chance to live, not just survive. Boxing taught me endurance, but now it teaches patience too." Chavez embraced coaching, commentary, and charitable work, turning his experience into guidance for younger fighters, helping them navigate both the ring and the life beyond it. Manny Pacquiao, from warrior to statesman. Pacquiao's post-fight journey led him into politics, philanthropy, and mentorship. The mental and physical toll of decades of competition never fully disappears, but he has worked to channel it positively. "Fighting isn't just about winning titles," Pacquiao reflects. "It's about learning to live with what you've been through. Boxing teaches you courage, but life teaches you wisdom. You can't undo the past, but you can shape what comes next." Pacquiao's story illustrates the potential for purpose and meaning beyond the ring, and the importance of community and national service in healing. Gennady Golovkin, preserving strength. Golovkin, a modern champion, faces a quieter reality after years in the ring. His focus now is on mentoring, health preservation, and strategic engagement in the sport he loves. "Life after boxing is about balance," Golovkin says. "You've given everything to your career, but now you give to yourself, your family, the fighters who come after. You've earned it." Mental health and identity. Across the Americas and beyond, the stories converge on a single truth: mental health is inseparable from physical health. Depression, anxiety, and substance abuse are common among retired fighters, often triggered by loss of purpose, lingering head trauma, and the sudden absence of structure and routine. Psychologists emphasize that recovery requires more than medical treatment, it requires rebuilding identity. Fighters must learn to see themselves beyond the ring. Fathers, mentors, coaches, philanthropists, entrepreneurs. They must integrate their past, with all its pain and glory, into a sustainable sense of self. Finding new purpose. Some fighters discover fulfillment in mentoring the next generation. Others turn to commentary, coaching, philanthropy, or business. Tyson, Holyfield, Chavez, Pacquiao, Golovkin, each has found ways to channel experience into purpose. Life after boxing is a different kind of fight, one retired champion says. You're fighting for balance, for sanity, for happiness. And that's tougher than any opponent in the ring. The transition is rarely linear. Relapse, doubt, and struggle are common. But through support networks, therapy, and self-reflection, many fighters create fulfilling lives, proving resilience extends beyond the ropes. A human legacy. The stories of Tyson, Holyfield, Chavez, Pacquiao, and Golovkin reveal a deeper truth: boxing is not just about spectacle or titles. It's about people, the courage required to face opponents and the consequences of those encounters. Life after boxing is about reconciling with the past, finding meaning beyond glory, and cultivating resilience of the body, mind, and spirit. The ultimate fight is not in the ring, it is in life itself. Chapter 6: Boxing Forward, Safety, Strategy and the Next Generation. The evolution of the fight game. Boxing has always been a paradox, the art of controlled violence. But today, the sport stands at a crossroads between tradition and transformation. The old mentality of "tough it out" is slowly giving way to a new philosophy: fight smart, fight safe, fight longer. The new generation of boxers, shaped by science, data, and emotional intelligence, is rewriting the script. They train differently, recover differently, and think differently. And they understand something their predecessors often ignored: that the mind and body are not disposable tools, but sacred instruments of their craft. The new breed. Fighters like Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta Davis, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, and Naoya Inoue represent the next evolution of boxing. They are not just punchers or brawlers, they are strategists, technicians, and brand builders. Each of them grew up watching legends like Tyson, Pacquiao, and Mayweather, absorbing lessons from their triumphs and mistakes. But they also grew up in a new world, one of sports science, nutrition, brain health awareness, and global connectivity. Their training camps now resemble laboratories as much as gyms. Data-tracked sparring sessions measure punch output, speed, and heart rate. Neurocognitive tests monitor reaction time and focus. Recovery rooms feature cryotherapy chambers, oxygen therapy, and mindfulness training. They understand that preservation is power. Longevity is legacy. Global power shifts. Once dominated by American heavyweights, boxing has become truly global. From Kazakhstan's Golovkin to Japan's Inoue, Ukraine's Usyk, and Mexico's Canelo Alvarez, the talent pool spans continents. Latin America continues to produce warriors with ferocious heart and skill: Alvarez, Chavez Jr., and Navarrete, blending tradition with technique. Eastern Europe contributes cerebral tacticians like Usyk, Bivol, and Lomachenko, who redefine what intelligence looks like in the ring. The US remains a powerhouse of athleticism and charisma, while Asia's champions bring discipline and humility rooted in martial arts culture. Boxing, once seen through a national lens, has evolved into a global conversation, a shared language of courage and survival. Safety as strategy. The brutality of the past is giving way to a smarter future. Boxing commissions now enforce concussion protocols, neurological exams, and mandatory rest after knockouts. Gyms limit sparring rounds to preserve the brain, and trainers use high-tech headgear that tracks impact levels. This isn't softness, it's evolution. As one veteran coach says, "The best fighters today aren't just tough. They're smart. They don't take 10 punches to give one, they find the one that ends it." Even corner culture is changing. Where old-school trainers screamed, "You gotta take him out or die trying," today's coaches tell their fighters to live to fight another day. The science of strategy. AI-driven video analysis now breaks down opponents' habits, foot placement, shoulder movement, the fraction of a second before a jab fires. Coaches can design fight plans as detailed as military operations. Nutritionists tailor diets to genetic data. Sports psychologists teach focus, visualization, and post-fight decompression. The new boxing mind isn't fueled by rage, it's fueled by clarity. Manny Pacquiao once said, "Discipline, not anger, wins fights." The next generation takes that to heart. The emotional evolution. For younger fighters, vulnerability is no longer taboo. They speak openly about fear, anxiety, and mental health. Tyson Fury, for example, has become one of the loudest voices in mental health awareness, proving that toughness and honesty can coexist. Ryan Garcia, too, has turned his personal struggles into dialogue, showing that transparency can inspire strength. The gym is no longer just a place to build muscle, it's a place to build mental balance. Legacy and continuity. The echoes of the greats still shape the sport. Ali's defiance, Tyson's intensity, Holyfield's resilience, Pacquiao's humility, these are eternal archetypes. But the next generation carries them differently, less destructive, more deliberate, more self-aware. The new champions understand that greatness isn't only measured in belts, but in balance, in how much of yourself you can keep while giving everything to the fight. The goal isn't just to win, says Shakur Stevenson. It's to leave the ring whole, body, mind, and spirit. A future worth fighting for. Boxing's future isn't guaranteed. Competing sports, streaming politics, and health concerns all challenge its survival. But the essence of the fight endures, that primal confrontation between fear and courage, chaos and control. As long as there are people willing to test their limits, to risk, to sacrifice, to overcome, the ring will never be empty. And if the next generation can preserve both their bodies and their souls, perhaps boxing will finally fulfill its truest promise, not just to create champions, but to create complete human beings. Epilogue: The light beyond the ring. When the crowd has gone home and the lights dim, there is silence. The gloves rest on the corner post, still damp with effort and memory. The ring, once a battlefield, becomes a quiet square of reflection. It is here, in the hush after combat, that a fighter faces the truth of what it all meant. The measure of a fighter. Championship belts fade. Records blur. Fame dissolves into the long march of time. What remains are the scars, physical, emotional, spiritual, and the meaning behind them. A true fighter is not measured only by victories or knockouts, but by endurance. By the ability to rise from failure, to confront fear, to keep moving when every part of the body screams to stop. Courage, it turns out, is not found in throwing punches. It's found in getting up when the world stops cheering. Echoes of the past. The ghosts of the greats linger in every gym. Ali's laughter. Tyson's rage. Holyfield's faith. Pacquiao's humility. Chavez's endurance. Golovkin's calm precision. Their echoes remind the next generation what the fight really is, not just against an opponent, but against time itself. Every jab, every dodge, every comeback is a defiance of mortality. But even the greatest warriors must bow eventually. Their bodies slow, their hands ache, their voices tremble. And yet, in that slowing, they gave everything to the thing they loved. The eternal ring. Boxing has never been about violence alone. It is a ritual, ancient, rhythmic, human. In its essence lies something universal, the struggle to master one's fear, to find order in chaos, to test the limits of will. That is why it endures. From the dust of ancient amphitheaters to the neon of Las Vegas, from the barrios of Mexico to the alleys of Manila, from Brooklyn gyms to the steppes of Kazakhstan, the fight continues. Every generation adds its verse. Every fighter leaves an imprint. Epilogue: The light beyond the ring. When the crowd has gone home and the lights dim, there is silence. The gloves rest on the corner post, still damp with effort and memory. The ring, once a battlefield, becomes a quiet square of reflection. It is here, in the hush after combat, that a fighter faces the truth of what it all meant. The measure of a fighter. Championship belts fade. Records blur. Fame dissolves into the long march of time. What remains are the scars, physical, emotional, spiritual, and the meaning behind them. A true fighter is not measured only by victories or knockouts, but by endurance. By the ability to rise from failure, to confront fear, to keep moving when every part of the body screams to stop. Courage, it turns out, is not found in throwing punches. It's found in getting up when the world stops cheering. Echoes of the past. The ghosts of the greats linger in every gym. Ali's laughter. Tyson's rage. Holyfield's faith. Pacquiao's humility. Chavez's endurance. Golovkin's calm precision. Their echoes remind the next generation what the fight really is, not just against an opponent, but against time itself. Every jab, every dodge, every comeback is a defiance of mortality. But even the greatest warriors must bow eventually. Their bodies slow, their hands ache, their voices tremble. And yet, in that slowing, they gave everything to the thing they loved. The eternal ring. Boxing has never been about violence alone. It is a ritual, ancient, rhythmic, human. In its essence lies something universal, the struggle to master one's fear, to find order in chaos, to test the limits of will. That is why it endures. From the dust of ancient amphitheaters to the neon of Las Vegas, from the barrios of Mexico to the alleys of Manila, from Brooklyn gyms to the steppes of Kazakhstan, the fight continues. Every generation adds its verse. Every fighter leaves an imprint. Legacy. Legacy isn't a statue, or a name in a record book. It's the trembling hands of an old fighter showing a young one how to wrap his wrists. It's the quiet wisdom passed from corner to corner, gym to gym. It's the understanding that glory fades, but truth does not. Ali once said, "Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth." In that spirit, many of the greats, broken yet unbowed, now give back, mentoring, teaching, guiding. They become storytellers, healers, and protectors of the next generation. Their bodies carry pain. But their hearts, finally, carry peace. The human condition. In the end, boxing is a mirror of life itself. We are all fighters in our own way. We all step into our own rings, face our own opponents, fall, rise, and carry our scars. The ring is just a symbol. The fight, the real fight, is to remain human through it all. The light beyond the ring. As the years pass, the lights dim and the echoes fade, but somewhere, in a dusty gym, in a distant city, a young fighter tightens his gloves, breathes deeply, and steps through the ropes for the first time. He does not yet know what the ring will take from him, or what it will give. He only knows the heartbeat, the hunger, the need to test himself. And so, the story begins again, courage reborn in another body, another soul. The light flickers, then burns anew. For as long as there are dreamers willing to fight, the ring will never be empty.